Okay. Share my screen over here now. Well, thanks for the patience, everyone. I will hopefully have these kinks ironed out before we meet again next week, but fingers crossed that'll be the case. Well, welcome to our
sorry to interrupt. One thing I didn't mention to you about workflowy is it defaults to kind of a small font, so you might want to Command plus several times to zoom in.
Sure, I can scroll. Let's see. There are no other view options. Okay, so hopefully
Command plus you can do several times as much as you want. That'll zoom everything in.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the mouse wheel for zooming, but yeah. So welcome everyone to our July 28th town hall meeting. Hopefully, I'm not a complete stranger to most of you. But my name is Adam Jennings, and I have taken the reins from Jeremy for the first time this week to lead this weekly discussion. I know that we've got a couple of folks on the line here. Marty, I know we've seen you a couple of times. Hi, good to see you once again. Kai, would you like to introduce yourself right here at the top? I don't think we've met.
Hi. I'm not sure the audio is working. My microphone just died. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, I can hear you just fine.
I've been to the e-NABLE community. I think it was last September around the same time, and I'm a researcher myself, based in the UK, and I was doing a design research in the field of 3D printing prosthetics, and it was mostly focused on converting a low-cost 3D printer to producing a higher quality print, as well as like optimizing the design process of the general 3D printing. And that was pretty much what I do. And
that's great. Well, that's wonderful. Well, man, what a great background you have for this community. That's wonderful. So how did you hear about e-NABLE in the first place?
I think it was one of the paper about I think it was the cyber beast. They mentioned the e-NABLE community during my literature review, and it's really fascinating to have such an amazing group of people together solving all the issues in the field. And that's why I joined.
That's great. Well, I know we've got a number of initiatives that we're trying to get off the ground that I think your expertise in this space could be tremendously helpful for. So thank you so much for joining and for donating your time. That's wonderful. Well, let's just kick off with the action items right here at the top. Sarah, because just a heads up, Jeremy let me know at the top of the call that I had posted the wrong workflowy link, that it was linked to the general page, like the landing page for workflowy, and not to this specific sheet. My apologies there. I'm sure you weren't able to update the post from the hub. So I can just hop over to the hub where we can kind of walk through any items of note based on your documentation. But let's just start right here at the top. Jeremy, I have this first item on my to-do list for, that's odd. Jeremy, you're not giving me a call right now, are you? I wouldn't imagine you would.
I presume he's not. So Kai, I missed part of your introduction. Where are you located?
I'm located in Newcastle, United Kingdom, and it's in Northumbria University.
That's great. And have you been with the e-NABLE community for long, or is this you're getting used to us?
This is my second or third meetings that I participate. I had a design. I went to one of the design meeting in March, but I've been watching the live stream for quite a while.
Great. Well, forgive me if we've met before, because I don't remember meeting you.
I think the design meeting I attended was the one that we got Zoom bombed that day. I was quite
I see.
I was quite nervous going to happen again during the design one. Thankfully, it didn't happen.
Got it.
Adam, is
Okay.
your audio back now?
Yeah, sorry. Am I getting feedback when I speak?
No.
There's no echo?
No, I think you've got a second. No, it's gone. There was a second connection, but it's fine now.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I got a phone call coming in, and I think it disconnected I'm connected on my phone, but I think that disrupted it. I apologize. So many technical glitches with this one, gang. But if my audio quality is okay, we'll just go off my device for the time being.
Fine.
Okay, and then I'll make sure I'll have these issues squared away for next time. So we are, Jason and I are actually joining forces on trying to get together a viable template here. So we've got the source files that you and John provided, Jeremy, and we'll have those hopefully put together for some specific use cases. I know that Jason and I are meeting with Sarah later this afternoon. We can talk more about that. But one of the items that we're going to be touching on is on producing a sort of media package, a media kit for reaching out to local newspapers and news stations. I think that would be a great use for some presentation materials. But I'll update you as those start getting churned out. Obviously, the second item has gone over without a hitch, switching the Zoom ownership over to me. We will, we'll get that squared away. Jeremy, I see an item here about sending Phoenix hand placemats to me. Can you elaborate on this?
I thought I did that. We have placemats, PDF printable placemats that have the instructions. Didn't I send those to you?
Gotcha. I'm sorry. I assumed this was something physical. Okay. The terminology, sorry, is foreign to me.
Yeah, it would have been links to 2 PDFs on Google Drive.
Yeah, I've got that. Thank you. That's fine. And then Jeremy, I don't know whether this was covered in any of the calls that we had with Azure earlier this week, the scheduling call with Evan for plugins.
Well, we did the first call and we got the what was it? The Google Maps API key straightened out, but now I need to set up another call with him to get the 2 plugins under the e-NABLE credit card, and I have not done that yet.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. So on this next item here, summary of key e-NABLE metrics. This is something that Wildmont is going to be taking ownership of beginning next week. We all start backfilling that data. Jeremy, I might have a couple of questions about, identifying items of note, but it seems like a pretty simple process. It's just somewhat time consuming. So I'll be taking care of that soon. e-NABLE fund balance is currently sitting at 25K. I don't know if that's updated as of this morning, but I don't think we had anything coming out. I will say that Jason has been working this week. He's kicked off his efforts to explore additional sponsors and partners. So I'm hoping that the results of that drive will start manifesting within a month or two. But I think that he's pretty excited about a couple of leads that look pretty viable. And with that, I think we can jump over to the hub unless there are any other comments or questions. So I'm hoping that the results. 1 second. Within a month.
Do you still have the YouTube live stream tab open in your browser? Or not the live stream, not the control room, but what it does is when you start the live stream, it'll open the actual stream page in another tab. And if you don't close that, you're probably hearing the stream playing back. Do you still have the YouTube live stream tab open in your browser? Yeah, that's what's happening.
I may. I'm looking now.
Not the control room, but what it does is when you start the live stream, it'll open the actual stream page.
I think I got it.
Okay.
So sorry about that.
Adam, I put the posts from the hub for this week into the chat.
Oh, okay, great. See if I can find those.
You'll be able to just click on the link in the Zoom chat, Adam.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble accessing my Zoom window for some reason.
When you're sharing your screen, I think it puts the toolbar up at the top, floating toolbar.
Got it. Okay, so just these two items, Sarah, is that what you're referring to?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Let me just pull that up. Yeah, my apologies, gang. I'm more used to sharing from Teams than Zoom.
So it takes
Take some getting
some
used
things
to.
you can only find out in real time.
And Adam, if you just pulled up the post, we're not seeing that because I think when
No,
you-
no, I haven't yet. I'm trying to, for some reason, oof. For some reason, it's not playing with me. All right, I've got it now. Okay. Alrighty, so we've got a post from Kevin Shaw. I've printed a freehand, would like to submit this as evidence and start looking for recipients. Please, can someone tell me how to do this? I've looked at claiming a badge, but this hand is not shown. Then we've got a reply from Sandra Dermasek.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I mean, we don't have every design out there in our catalog, but hop over to the badges page, will you,
Sure.
Adam, at the top? And if you go down to the makers section in the middle, past community, keep going, go to the makers section. Here you go. Keep scrolling down in here. I think there's one in here towards the bottom. Keep going down for 3D printed an experimental design. There you go. Fabricated and assembled an experimental device. I would suggest that anything that we don't have in our catalog, maybe that's the one to go with.
Okay.
That's the closest thing we've got. Unfortunately, we don't have that design in our catalog, so we don't have a badge for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me drop this here.
And then we could consider adding a badge for, like, you know, I don't know what we would call it, you know, created a prosthetic hand from outside the e-NABLE catalog. I don't know. It's hard to come up with a name that would fit on a badge.
Yeah.
That's the closest I got for now.
For the record, I think that Free 3D Hands seems to be Matt Botel.
Oh, wait,
so
that's true. So that's okay. So that's a kinetic hand then. That's a good
That's
call,
right.
John. I'm sorry. So I steered you wrong, Adam. That should be a kinetic badge. It's just not called. He was confused about the name, but John's right. That's a kinetic hand, not Free 3D. That's just what they call their nonprofit. I had forgotten about that.
Okay, so we can.
There is a badge for kinetic hand. Yeah,
Gotcha. So we can just direct him to the kinetic hand badge.
that's right. That's right. Maybe we could ask. I usually ask Sarah to handle these follow-ups so you can focus on the meeting.
Oh, fair enough. Sarah, do you mind?
Okay, Sarah.
Of course.
Thank you. And then we've got another post. We've actually got a few posts that might be worth exploring. Looking for Nathan Uta's. I'll just click the link instead of
No, it's Nathan, and he had a post about Utah.
Utah. Oh, thank you. I missed the comma. I assumed it was Nathan Uta. Alrighty, Nathan McClellan. There we go. Not currently a chapter in Utah, and I'm looking to help. Looking for help for a 7-year-old son, prosthesis. Gotcha. We've got a reply here from Connie, who I believe is our lead from the Illinois ATP.
No, that's somebody else. Connie is a longtime volunteer with us.
Oh, is that a different Connie?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Courtney is our IATP lead. That's Courtney Knowles.
We also had a Connie with Illinois, but
So I'm happy to see that both Connie and Tanya stepped up. And I see from this that Tanya and Sage Prosthetics is alive and well. They say
Yeah.
that they usually make about 20 prosthetics a school year, and we're looking for new recipients for next year. We can easily ship free.
That's wonderful. I do
That's
also
great.
think it's worth pointing out here for, what was his name? Nathan, the one who published this originally, the comment?
Mhm.
Nathan, I think it's worth pointing out that I don't know if he's under the impression that you have to be part of a chapter or working through a chapter to deliver a device. I just want to clarify you don't. I mean, Nathan, if he has gone through the process of learning how to make a device, maybe earned a badge for that device, he's welcome to take this case on himself and just make it. He doesn't have to be part of a chapter. So I just wanted to point that out, but I'm very glad to see that he is connected with a couple of experienced resources, and I'm sure they'll guide him through this.
perfect. Thanks, Jeremy. And Sarah, do you want to make a note there that he can reach out to anyone and anyone?
Yeah, of course.
That'd be great. All right.
My reading of that, which is ambiguous, was that it was his son, but in any case, he's well connected now.
Okay. I just wanted to point out really quick, this is a post that was brought up last week, but Maxie Nixon posted a little bit of content about a recipient. It's really interesting. It's a really great story. Jason is going to be reaching out, or has reached out to Maxie now, about getting a release form, and whether the child Jackson and his mom would be interested in participating in putting together a little bit more collateral that we could use for our media package and for using for outward facing materials. As these things come up and as more people start indicating, rather than simply asking the question for how do I do XYZ, I think it would be really useful to start directing people to our media space on the hub, and encouraging folks to take pictures and videos. And if we can, gosh, if there's a way to incentivize that, if there's a way to beyond saying, hey, you should really do this, it might be about time to start making a more concerted push to try to get some new materials there. But let's hop back over to the workflow if I can find it. I think I've lost it in the shuffle. There we go. Okay, I think that's it for the hub. Upcoming special guests and presentations. Next month, we have Florian Valles from Ugani Prosthetics. Florian is a contact of mine. He has been really useful, really helpful, I should say, in helping to provide some additional context with some questions that I've had about some targeted marketing, targeted relief efforts in the developing world. Ugani Prosthetics is a sort of a startup incubator, the result of Florian's company. It is a prosthetics firm based in, oh boy, where is it based? Let's find out. I don't want to say the wrong country. I wanted to say it was Kenya, but I could be mistaken. But they've been doing some pretty awesome work in establishing prosthetic clinics in areas that simply did not have them, and creating a viable and profitable model that allows for the community to sustain themselves, so they're not reliant on outside aid. It's a really interesting model that he's exploring, and I invited him to speak next month to talk a little bit about how to foster lasting change in areas in the developing world, and looking at how the nonprofit model differs from the startup model, and see if there are any lessons that we can learn from his experience in that space. So I'm really excited to listen to him and ask him a couple of additional questions about his work there. Any questions or comments there? Just checking. Am I still connected?
You are.
Okay, great.
I'm just quietly listening.
That's great. I tell you, I have lost my video screen, like the little screen showing everyone else's faces. So now I feel like I'm just talking to the void.
When you shared the screen, there's some check boxes at the bottom to like share sound and optimize for video. You didn't check those, did you? Because
don't think so.
Okay, then it should be up under the view options. Under your toolbar, there should be an option to show video panel.
Don't see that. That's okay. I'll be fine.
Okay.
I'll just swallow the discomfort. Alrighty. Well, in that case, let's move into what Wildmont has been working on lately. So just harkening back to our the positive feedback model that I identified, that 5-step flow. And in fact, I can throw that up on the screen as a quick reminder. But in short, what we are looking at is trying to create a more holistic process to better guide our community in treating every device delivery as part of a larger process that feeds into the next step and into every subsequent cycle. So we begin with identifying need. That moves to device pairing and fabrication, then device provision and follow-up, waivers and media, what I was just referring to with Jackson and Maxi, and then that step leading into our various fundraising opportunities and sponsors and partnerships. I want to just kind of highlight, break down each of these steps here, beginning with identifying need or case identification. We can spend as much time here as you feel is appropriate, Jeremy. But did you want to give just a high-level overview of where things stand with the new website and what we've been talking about with Thierry?
Well, we have the website up and running, and it looks like it could be a good sort of a starting point to build out a new a homepage essentially for e-NABLE, a place where when people search us out online, this is where they would land. This is where they would first learn about who and what we are and how to get involved and how they can support us. And it would essentially be a hub from which we can link them off to our various somewhat complicated resources, since we have several different sites, and be a way of helping people to find their way into the community. The site itself is up and running. It was developed in French. It does have an English translation, but there are some components that are not yet translated. And so there's work to be done there. And so essentially we have a couple of things that we need to work on. We need to work on more fully translating it, but more importantly, changing the actual content, because what we have now is a copy of the site built by e-NABLE France. So most of the content is oriented towards the work they're doing there in France. And we want to make it a little bit more generic, a little bit more about e-NABLE as a whole, and primarily a little bit more oriented towards our US audience, at least to begin with, and then branch out from there to make it more globally representative. But we want to make it more representative of e-NABLE as a whole community. So there's a lot of content that needs to be updated, pages, Adam and his team are going to be going through and kind of figuring out what to keep, what to drop, what to change, and providing that as guidance to our volunteer, Azer, who's generously helped us to do this work. And then there's also a matching component where we have a map, a Google map, where you can register either as a maker or as a device recipient, and it'll put pins on the map of various colors to show kind of who's where, and then we can use that as a tool for connecting makers with people looking for devices as a sort of a rudimentary matching process. What we still have to figure out is the actual process that goes behind that, because all the website really does is allow you to connect those two, and it sends an email to each one saying, okay, you two are going to work together, and that's about it. So we have to sort of work out what is our process for managing and monitoring cases and following up on cases and all that. There's a meeting still to be had to have some discussion about that, and whether or not e-NABLE Web Central may have any part to play in the future. Likely not, but we have to talk about kind of what our options are for that whole case management process going forward. We did meet with Thierry, who's the leader of e-NABLE France, and he was very helpful in kind of pointing us to some of the things that we need to move forward. He unfortunately doesn't have access to his developers anymore that built the site, but he was able to at least point us to where in the folder structure all the custom code lives. And so we should be able to start digging through that now and start to change some of the French elements to English and start to, otherwise update it to more, bring it in line with our current needs. So that's where we stand. It's a work in progress, but we are well positioned to be able to move forward and start getting that site ready to actually be live.
Yeah, and I just as a point of color, I think that it looks really great. I really like the way the interactive map shows on the website we're talking about taking in. Jeremy, we were a little bit concerned about, well, you raised a concern in the call about follow-up care and tracking of devices. Is that anything that you want to expand on here?
Well, I don't think we figured that out yet. That's why I said I think there's definitely a meeting to be had, and I know that's going to involve you, me, and John, and anyone else who's at all interested in this. I mean, it's a very challenging problem to solve. We're talking about the whole case management process. Who's involved, who monitors, how do we get feedback from the maker, from the recipient? How do we keep track of these things? How do we follow up over time, even after a device is delivered, to find out how that device is working, if it's being used, how we can improve it? There's a lot of aspects to this. So I think the next step is we got to get the right people into a Zoom meeting, and we got to brainstorm, and figure out what it is that we even want to try to build, and then figure out, okay, what is the tool to use to accomplish that?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I think it's for a group like ours, I think it's something we have the people and we have the interest to wrap our arms around it, and I'm feeling optimistic about it. I think we can make it something more workable and something that has a little bit more accountability, I think, than we currently are able to provide.
Yeah.
So just being able to follow up with someone, and if someone has an issue with their device, or they need maintenance or a completely new one, it would be great for them to know exactly what they need to do and where to go and who to call to have that taken care of.
So I would encourage you, Adam, unless you want to delegate, I would encourage you to maybe work on coordinating that meeting. And I would include maybe posting it on the hub to invite, there might be others, some of our key resources might want to join in on that discussion. And I'd welcome anyone's input on this. I do think we're probably looking at least a 90-minute meeting for this one. It's going to be a longer discussion.
And it's probably a discussion that might engage some IT or some techie types. Right now, I'm thinking a lot about postcards with QR codes, and some place where the QR code could be sort of taped on the inside of a hand or something, so that it might all become trackable. There's sort of an interesting mix of technology and IT there, and direct engagement that might catch someone's attention, which is why I'm saying it out loud now, and look forward to thinking it through during the meeting.
Well, but I think, I'm just my 2 cents here, because we've gotten into the weeds on this before. I think it might make sense for us to focus first on solving the problem. What is the process that we're trying to, build here? What does this look like? How are we going to do this? And then figure out the technology that's going to support that. Once we figure out what we want to do.
Yeah, whether it's something as simple as a serial number that's printed on the device, and what component of the device we'd want that printed on, and then having some kind of a bar on the website where you can enter your serial number and that matches up your case. I don't know. I think there are a lot of options.
And part of that discussion, honestly, is, I mean, I'm ready to retire e-NABLE Web Central once we have a solution here to replace it. But I will say, if some developer came along in our community that has the visual C#.net, skills on which that's built, there's a lot of good stuff in e-NABLE Web Central, which, another option is that we just simplify that by removing this back and forth kind of approval process that's in there right now, and make it, because the case management functionality that's in e-NABLE Web Central is quite good. And it offers a lot of value, and it offers a lot that we wouldn't have in this new platform. So there is that option to talk about, but it would require having somebody with the right development skills to make those changes. So I think both of those scenarios are worth exploring.
Let's move on, if that's all right, Jeremy, just because we've got about 15 minutes left. There are a couple of other routes that I think are part of what I'm interested in, part of the interest that I've heard expressed from other folks in the community that I've been messaging for the past, few months, is that beyond prosthetic hands, there's a lot of potential for looking at other kinds of devices. This is part of what our assistive device push has been about. I am working with State Tech Act program leaders. And Kai, this may not be directly relevant to you. I think you said you're based in the UK. Is that right?
Yes.
Gotcha. This is a strictly a US thing for now, but I think that there's a lot of broader potential here down the road. We're trying to identify a way that instead of simply, and not to be reductive, but instead of only focusing on prosthetic hands and prosthetic components generally, looking at a wider array of assistive technology as being sort of under the umbrella of what it is our community is capable of providing for folks. So in the US, we have something called the ATA, the Assistive Tech Act, and each state in the United States has its own AT program that's run by an affiliated, it's a nonprofit affiliated through the state government. In short, they're charged with matching folks, typically geriatric folks, with assistive technology. So I'm working with a couple of state leaders in Pennsylvania, Missouri, and Illinois. We have, I think, a lot of pieces of the puzzle, but what I'm trying to do is identify sort of a program in e-NABLE where each of our US-based chapters are paired with these state programs and can better supply them with 3D printed technology and determine what that need is and how best to deliver it. I know that in the EU, we've got a couple of folks who are exploring the assistive technology space and not just the prosthetic space in Milan. We've got, John, help me out. I believe he's a Swedish researcher who's based in Milan. You put me in touch with him, and his name is,
I'm blanking on his name.
I had a call with him a couple of months ago, and I'm blanking on his name too. But I think there's a lot of potential. I'll drop that next week's meeting if it comes up. But I think that there's a lot of potential for exploring applications of 3D printing and additive manufacturing beyond prosthetics. Speaking of which, rehab engineering. I am hopefully, I know I keep saying this, our meeting keeps getting pushed back, but I'll be hopefully meeting with Ability KC next week or the week after to talk about partnering with this rehab day program as a potential partner to serve as a kind of test kitchen for an e-NABLE partnership. What this would look like is, instead of focusing on the recipient, the person who'd be using the device, it would be providing 3D printed tools for speech therapists, occupational therapists, PTs, nursing aides, rehab techs. Tools in this space tend to be very specific to the kind of functional deficit that a patient in this kind of a setting might be experiencing, but they can also be very, very expensive. So they're very useful, the value is high, but to acquire them through traditional means usually requires, order from some kind of catalog system, and they can be, outside of the budget of a lot of these nonprofit organizations that are attempting to serve these communities. My thought is that e-NABLE could jump in and fill that gap and partner chapters that are close to, or at least interested in assisting given rehab facilities, and provide materials to them in that way. So more on that as this develops. But I think all of these things, the assistive tech, the trying to get a system in place for better tracking, looking at rehab engineering, looking at other like classroom models and ways that we can better support our educational chapters. I think all of these are things that a new website would go a long way to serving, and just having like an entry point that clearly indicates like, what are you interested in doing with our community, and then pushing folks down into the appropriate route based upon their stated interest. And hopefully the new website can accomplish that. On the next part of this this holistic process, obviously we've only covered step one, device delivery. Again, I think the matching platform is going to be really helpful in that. Trying to improve communication with potential recipients is really core, in my opinion. I think that we need to, when we're looking at this this new platform, this new matching platform, trying to make sure that there's some kind of mechanism to get an assessment for the recipient's functional state, maybe providing them with a survey, maybe performing some kind of functional assessments like, can you do XYZ things? What is your range of motion in your arm? And just like, ask them to check a given diagram. Some basic tools that we could supply to determine not only what kind of device is appropriate for the recipient, but also 6 months down the line after they've received the device, get a sense for how their functional status has improved as a result of receiving it. Or, if we're not only interested in function, if we're looking at quality of life measures, what should those questions be, and what would actually be a meaningful metric that we could capture to turn into actionable data that we could use to improve our devices, or approach specific groups, or identify targets to improve the impact of what it is our community members are doing. Again, nothing really actionable right now, but I think as a motivating philosophy of just gathering data about what devices are doing, what kind of impact they're having, I think is a focus that we should really emphasize. Device follow-up, I kind of touched that there as well. Let me just hop into here on media capture and storytelling. Jason and I are meeting with Sarah this afternoon to touch on a number of different topics. Sarah obviously has a journalism background and a great deal of know-how in this space. Jason and she are going to be working together to put together that media kit to try to provide our community members with tools and pictures and history and timelines of e-NABLE and what it is that our group has done over the years, so that there's a little bit more background, and e-NABLE can be a part of these stories, not the star. Obviously, that would be the recipient. So sorry, I had a sneeze coming in. But make sure we have materials to actually supply to folks so they can make these stories and showcase e-NABLE's work. I think would be hugely impactful for our ability to better capture new sponsors and partners. Jason, as I said, has been reviewing the collateral that he received from Jeremy and John. He's putting together some new threads that make a more compelling story for these new sponsors and partners. Jackson is the first target. He's going to reach out to this kiddo's mom to see if we could get something a little bit more like a day in the life, to just kind of show, if it's true, we don't want to fabricate anything, but if the receipt that they hand has been a meaningful addition to Jackson's life, we'd like to, show how and why that was the case. I think I'd also like to get a little bit more data about why he needed e-NABLE in the first place. I think that's a question that's frequently sort of skated over. Obviously he lives in an area that has an existing prosthetics infrastructure. So it'd be interesting to learn why e-NABLE was an attractive option, and e-NABLE device was a good option for Jackson specifically. Jason's also reaching out to the D-Dora Foundation. I know they're a previous sponsor of e-NABLE's. Apparently, they reached out to us with an express interest of increasing or resuming support for the community. So Jason will be reaching out to them to start up that conversation. He's also—
Sorry, Adam, which foundation?
That's the D-Dora Foundation?
Yes. They pronounce it Dora.
Oh, just Dora, not Dodora. Gotcha. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, Adam, be aware that Bob Rieger and I have both had prior several audio conversations with the director, and so it might be useful to have one of us there to bridge the gap, the transition.
Yep, that's good to note. Do you remember the director's name by any chance?
I will have it in a moment.
No rush. That's Dora. Yeah, I was walking through their site. It's really interesting, the work that they do.
It is indeed.
And then additionally, Jason, too many J names running around here. Jason will be reaching out to Joelle Terry at Comcast. Jeremy or John, would either of you like to sit in on that conversation or be involved in that conversation as well?
We've had only a passing interaction with them. So I think Jason, as a cold call, would be fine, but I'm happy to do it. And I will look up the people I did interact with and share that with you. And then you're quite welcome to recruit me.
Okay, great. And then I wanted to know, just to support Jason's efforts, we're trying to craft a kind of narrative around e-NABLE's 10-year anniversary, with which we just passed. We'd like to put together some kind of graphic or series of graphics, or maybe just like a highlight video, or all of the above, to kind of show where e-NABLE started, and then key points, key milestones along the way between 10 years ago and today. I know that a lot of that stuff is out there. I didn't know if Jeremy and John, if the materials that you sent you feel already encapsulate that pretty well, or if there are additional photos, videos, specific build-a-thon events, things that seem worthy of mentioning on a timeline, as a way to kind of indicate our bona fides and our staying power. Any thoughts there?
Well, I think I will pull up the two reports that we sent to the Dora Foundation previously, since that was probably our last effort to sort of package all of this.
Okay.
You'll want to update it anyway. And I gave you my sort of peanut gallery, Airtable gallery of videos and all sorts of things, which includes some, professional, high quality video that could be pillaged. And you might check with Zeynep in Turkey, because there's a documentary being made right now, or there was until the earthquake, about their work in Turkey.
Okay.
And in fact, I think that team might be coming to the States.
Okay, will do. Let me, just because we have only a couple of minutes left here, I want to thank everyone on the call, especially our members, Kai and Marty, for joining on. It's always nice to have more members here in these discussions, and hopefully starting next week, I'll have these technical issues worked out and we can start making things a little bit more interactive instead of just listening to me go on and on. So I did have a quick question, and maybe this is something just worth considering before we meet again next week. Obviously, we've been on hold with hosting or supporting one-time e-NABLE events in the past few years, like most people have been. I wanted to put this out to the community as an idea about whether and how we can establish a template for build-a-thon events, for local fundraisers, for specific e-NABLE chapters that are interested in funding their own enterprises, whether this is something that we would like to provide materials for, and if so, how would we go about, what would actually be a meaningful level of support, whether it's just, some slide decks, maybe putting together a space in the hub that provides files that folks can use to download and print on banners or whatever it is they want to do for hosting. And if it's an event hosted by the larger e-NABLE community, how and where those could be hosted down the line. I don't think 2023 is realistic, but looking forward to 2024, I think this would be a really good goal to have to raise our profile and increase our footprint. I think that conference attendance is an element of this as well. Identifying opportunities where e-NABLE can have some kind of presence, whether that's a booth or a white paper, whether there are community members who are interested in sharing their insights with other professionals in a variety of fields, from additive manufacturing to therapies to disability outreach communities. I think that there's a lot of opportunity that we're not currently grabbing onto to bring more folks into our community and add to the work that we're all trying to get done. So just a thought about where we might be going in the years ahead, how we can support this kind of endeavors.
I'm sorry, I need to get the education meeting started.
Yep.
And for anyone who wants to attend, Brent Hollers is presenting. So I'm going to hop off and do that now.
That's fine. Thank you all for joining today. I appreciate your patience, and we'll speak again next week.
Good start, Adam.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Jeremy,
thanks for taking
can you
it.
hold for a moment?
No, because she needs to start the next meeting under this account, so we'd be blocking her.
Okay. Kai, I don't know the answer to your question. Pop a note to, I think,